Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check.
With coverage you can count on, this is Channel 3 Eyewitness News at 6.
Because I feel like I'm a treasure hunter uncovering these hidden gems.
Mikah Meyer isn't hunting treasure exactly, but exploring the more than 400 national park sites. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cameron Taylor. This weekend, Myers checked the national parks in the Tennessee Valley off his list. And Channel 3's Caitlin Chastain takes us along for some of his journey.
Hey everybody, a quick hello from the top of Lookout Mountain in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee.
One adventure after another.
Well, this looks like it'd be easy to fall.
Right now I'm sitting in Big Bend National Park in the United States.
With only his van and a few personal belongings, Mikah Meyer is on the journey of a lifetime.
For the past 19 months, I've been living in this cargo van and driving around America trying to set a world record as the youngest person to visit all 417 National Park Service sites.
He's seen 267 so far and checked Lookout Mountain and the Chickamauga battlefield off his list this weekend.
These are not private lands that we have to, pay exorbitant amounts to access. These are our public lands, and so it's such an honor and a privilege that we get to experience the most beautiful places.
His adventure is inspired by one person, his father, who passed away more than a decade ago.
He was 58 at the time, and so he didn't get to retire, and it taught me a life lesson about not assuming we have forever to put off our dreams.
He's learning dreams aren't always easy. Meyer says it's actually one of the hardest things he's ever done.
There have been many, many times where I've almost quit, whether because of finances or just the loneliness or just it's really tough living in a van.
But he keeps going. Myers estimates the journey cost a total of $125,000. He saves money by living in his van and pays for what he can with his personal savings. Myers tries to get sponsors, but mostly spends Sundays showing off another talent.
Every Sunday I'm at a different church singing for my supper, raising funds.
It's what he did Sunday in Chattanooga. Myers stopped by Grace Episcopal Church. It's a way to spread his message and raise money. After all, he still has a year and a half left and 150 more sites to see.
Hearing from people all around the world who tell me how this journey is inspiring them, that's what keeps me on the road. That's what keeps me going when it's rough.
Spreading inspiration as he explores one historic park at a time.
It's a good reminder that we don't need as much material stuff as we think we need, and that life experiences, I would say, are more important.
In Chattanooga, Caitlin Chastain, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Now, Myers heading to the Tupelo National Battlefield next. His journey will come to an end on April 29th of 2019, the 14th anniversary of his father passing. Now, to follow his adventure or donate, visit the story inside the WRCB mobile app. A car crashed into a Highway 58 thrift store, causing the driver to become trapped. Chattanooga police tell us firefighters pulled the driver out of the car. It happened at the Humane Educational Society's Deja New thrift store. Our crew at the scene says the woman was taken to the hospital. Her son tells us she put the car in reverse, blacked out, went across Highway 58, and backed into the building. Executive Director Bob Citrullo says he's thankful the store was closed at the time.
We're really fortunate that no one was in the store. There were no animals here at the time because we do adoption events from here.
Citrullo says the thrift store is usually closed on Sundays. They had been reorganizing and getting ready for the holidays. We're told a building inspector is checking out the structural damage. A woman faces charges after police say she hit a person crossing the street at the Main Times 24 event last night. 21-year-old Martha Turner is charged with driving under the influence and failing to yield. An arrest report says Turner was driving on Main Street when she turned onto Rossville Avenue. Turner told police she did not see anyone crossing the street. She's due in court next month. Chattanooga police are looking into what led to 2 shootings last night. The latest one happened at 1 o'clock this morning when officers responded to North Tulip Avenue. When they arrived, they found a 56-year-old man with a gunshot wound. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to be okay. Investigators are still trying to figure out where the shooting happened. And a 26-year-old man who had been shot earlier in the night showed up at a hospital. Chattanooga police say this happened after 10 o'clock. We're told the shooting happened on Hollyberry Lane. Police say that man is also expected to be okay. If you have any information about either of these cases, call Chattanooga Police. Cleveland police have arrested a man who they say was responsible for a robbery and a burglary. Demetrius Osborne faces charges tonight. On Friday, officers say Osborne and a woman took a man's wallet, cash, and iPhone after he had given them a ride to the hotel. Police also discovered that Osborne broke into an apartment off of Fletcher Drive. Officers spotted him near Cleveland Skate Place and arrested him. All the stolen items have been returned to their owners. In Sevier County, deputies have responded to a home in Kodak after a woman says her husband was threatening to kill himself. The TBI says there was some sort of confrontation that ended with deputies firing shots and injuring the man. Authorities have identified that man as Timothy McGill. He's currently being treated at UT Medical Center. The TBI says no deputies were hurt. The holiday market is open for business for the next 3 weekends. It's an extension of the Chattanooga market with a holiday theme. Regular vendors as well as new vendors are on hand to help with your holiday shopping. Plus, there are unique items for anyone in the family. Organizers say when you buy at the holiday market, you're supporting local vendors.
Great community event, and you get to come out here and know that you're supporting the local economy and your local vendors. So the money that you spend for Christmas helps make Christmas better for all of Chattanooga.
The holiday market is open until December 17th on Saturdays from 10 to 5 and Sundays 11 to 5. A stolen Santa suit and hat valued at $520 has landed someone on the naughty list. The outfit was stolen from a Pennsylvania mall, and state police say the theft happened between last Monday and Wednesday. 250 Santa swapped chimneys for snow-covered mountains today when they went skiing and snowboarding for a good cause. Now, this is the 18th year for the Sunday River Ski Resort event that raises money for the communities in the area. Participants in the event must donate a minimum of $15 to participate and be decked out in a full Santa costume. Now, this year they raised $2,500. Great event right there. Next here on Eyewitness News at 6, the former home of the Detroit Lions was supposed to be imploded this morning, but it didn't go as planned. We'll tell you what happened.
I hope you had time to get out and enjoy the beautiful weather across the Tennessee Valley today. It'll be nice again on Monday, then we'll get some rain, and then it turns much colder after that. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up.
In Pontiac, Michigan, a crowd had gathered and the cameras were
memories of Clemson House. We had a student.
All right, welcome back. Today in Pontiac, Michigan, everything appeared to be in place to turn the former home of the Detroit Lions into a pile of rubble. That's what was supposed to happen. But NBC's Dan Shinneman reports what was supposed to happen didn't.
In Pontiac, Michigan, a crowd had gathered and the cameras were ready to capture the Silverdome as it imploded. But after the blast, the stadium stood tall.
So you got your bang, but we didn't get our cut.
The blast was meant to break the beams that support the upper ring of the stadium, but about 10% of the explosive charges failed to detonate.
What went wrong was a wire somewhere was cut, and we don't know why or how.
The Pontiac Silverdome opened in 1975. It was once home to the NFL's Detroit Lions and hosted a Super Bowl. But in 2002, the Lions moved to a gleaming new home in Detroit. 2 years ago, a decision was made to demolish the team's old home. In Pontiac, a city once synonymous with American manufacturing, the dome was symbolic of what happened to the city. The mayor says the failed demolition is also a symbol.
You know, they thought Pontiac was down and out. We came back, so the Silverdome was the same. You know, they tried to bring it down. The hired old lady is not coming down just yet.
Demolition experts say excavators will start taking down the rest of the building this week. Dan Shinneman, NBC News.
At Clemson University, a piece of campus history is no more. What was known as Clemson House was imploded this morning, as you can see. The building was from the 1950s and had been everything from a hotel to a dorm to an office building. A crowd gathered to say goodbye. Some of them moved to tears by its destruction.
A lot of people have memories of Clemson House. We had a student team collecting memorabilia and comments from people from over the years, and many people had things to say about when they were students here and in the 60s, and then eating at the restaurant and seeing Bob Hope at the building.
Many people had already taken memorabilia from the building. Much of what's left will be recycled. Ahead here on Eyewitness News at 6, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn could face more charges. And meteorologist Nick Austin will have a look at your Sunday night forecast and the chances of flurries later this week.
With coverage you can.
President Trump.
with coverage you can count on. This is Channel 3 Eyewitness News at 6.
President Trump tweeted today saying he never asked the FBI to stop investigating former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. That's at least one U.S. Senator says evidence is growing for a possible obstruction of justice charge. It all comes as the White House celebrates the Senate passing its tax reform bill. NBC's Jennifer Johnson has our story from Washington.
President Trump denying he meddled in FBI Director James Comey's Russian election investigation that included former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. The president tweeted Sunday, "I never asked Comey to stop investigating Flynn." Flynn pleaded guilty Friday to lying to the FBI. The top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee believes the president's firing of Comey could lead to serious charges.
It is my belief that that is directly because he did not agree to lift the cloud of the Russia investigation. That's obstruction of justice.
The president's personal lawyer, John Dowd, said Sunday that he, not the president, drafted an eyebrow-raising tweet Saturday saying, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI." That raised questions. Mr. Trump knew Flynn had committed a felony when he told Comey to go easy on him. The Russian election cloud still hanging over the White House as it celebrates the Senate's passage of its tax reform plan.
This is a major step forward for the American public. We're going to get this to the president's desk for his signature before the end of the year.
But opponents say the bill is filled with special deals and no one had time to read it.
You could do the things that we're talking about, reducing corporate tax rates, doubling the standard deduction, in maybe 50 pages. This is 477 pages.
Despite differences between the House and Senate bills, Republicans are promising a quick compromise. And the Senate Majority Leader says lawmakers will find a way to keep the government running, even though a temporary spending bill expires midnight Friday. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
Chance to see the supermoon. Meteorologist Nick Austin standing by with what makes it super. Nick.
That's right. Well, in the simplest form, a supermoon means that it's closer to the Earth than it normally is during its monthly orbit. So that's basically what it comes down to. Now, the neat thing about tonight's full moon is that it's the only full supermoon of this year. There have been a few other supermoons, but there were new moons, so you couldn't see them. Also, so it's going to look about 14% larger. It's going to look about 30% brighter than it normally does. And it's also the last full moon of the year, which is often nicknamed the frost moon in the northern hemisphere, or sometimes the cold moon or the moon before Yule. Now, we do have some high clouds out there right now, which at times will block the view of the moon tonight, but we could see some breaks in the clouds, especially later this evening and into the overnight hours. Other than that, it's a beautiful night. That was a live shot there from up on the ridge from the View Apartments. Temperatures mostly in the 50s, at least in the valleys here across East Tennessee, 60s to our south, but we do have some temperatures that have cooled off into the 40s in the high elevations. Altamont at 49, over in Murphy at the airport it's 45, and it's 48 up at the McMinn County Airport. But it's 56 right here in town, and Cleveland's at 50 degrees. But look at the high temperatures, how they plummet later in the week. We've had highs in the 60s for, think about 8 or 9 or 10 days now in a row. And tomorrow will be in the 60s again too. But later in the week, high temperatures will only be in the 40s, and those lows will be dropping down to freezing and below, especially outside of the city. So it's going to get a lot colder later this week. Here's a look at those high clouds on the satellite imagery. And there are breaks in the clouds further back to our west. So these high clouds, I think, will thin out later this evening. And you'll get a much better look at that full frost moon as we head towards the later evening, and if you're up for a little while during the overnight hours. Tomorrow, winds turn southerly, and we'll see lots of sunshine after some fog early tomorrow. So it's going to be another very mild afternoon for your Monday, but you won't have to contend with any rain. That'll be on Tuesday. The next wet day will be Tuesday. A cold front approaches. Tuesday morning, not a lot of rain, but from at least not near the city and eastward, but west of the city, maybe by about 9 or 10 or so on Tuesday morning, we'll see the rain start to approach the plateau. Through the rest of the day, it'll just overspread the rest of the viewing area. So gradually it will become a wet day during the day Tuesday, but it's more likely that the afternoon commute home from work on Tuesday, there'll be wet roads as compared to the morning. But it's going to be pretty wet. No rain today though at the airport. We're 7 inches ahead of schedule for the year still, but we could use some rain around here. It's been pretty dry for a while. 66 was the high after a low of 38 So the low not too far from normal for this time of the year, but the high was 11 degrees above normal. A lot of 60s from Alabama all across North Georgia today, as well as right here in the metro area, 65 at Channel 3 right here at our studios, and low to mid 60s north of the city as well. Tonight dropping to 43, partly cloudy skies with some patchy fog later on. 68 for tomorrow, a lot of sunshine and breezy, and then 54 with more and more clouds tomorrow night. There's the rain on Tuesday, but Wednesday and Thursday will dry out. It just gets colder with highs mostly in the 40s. And then we could see a little bit of a light mix of rain and snow on Friday with maybe light snow showers Friday night, especially in the high elevations, and that'll taper off on Saturday. It's hard to tell exactly how much snow we might get. It's not going to be big amounts, and the timing could change as well, so just keep with the updates during the week. But there's potential for some wintry weather later in the week.
Okay, and we know you and the rest of the Storm Alert Weather team will keep track of that.
We will.
All right, thanks.
You bet.
All right, up next in sports, the final college football rankings are out. Jill Jelnick will fill you in on who made it into this year's playoffs. Plus, the Titans pull off the come-from-behind win over the Texans. We'll have highlights and more when we come back.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into sports. After a very long weekend of conference championships and arguing over which 4 teams will make it into the college football playoffs, the committee has finally spoken. And for the first time ever, 2 teams from the SEC have made it in. So here they are, the final 4 teams in this year's college football playoffs. Clemson comes in at number 1, having won the ACC championship. Oklahoma comes in at 2, having won the Big 12 championship. Then Georgia comes in at 3 after running over Auburn yesterday in the SEC championship. And then last, but certainly not least, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Whether or not Alabama should have gotten in over Ohio State has been the debate all weekend long. In the end, Alabama only had 1 loss and has shown a lot more consistency this season than the Buckeyes have, which in turn makes the SEC the first conference to send 2 playoff contenders. So you can see here in the final top 10 rankings, Ohio State was the first one left out, followed by Wisconsin at 6, Auburn at 7, then USC, Miami, and Penn State. This also means that Alabama has made it into its 4th playoff in 4 years. The Crimson Tide will now get ready to face the number 1 team in the country, the Clemson Tigers, in the Sugar Bowl January 1st. It will also be a rematch of the past 2 national championship games, with the Tide winning the title 2 seasons ago and the Tigers winning last year's. Kickoff is already set for 8 p.m. Eastern in the Superdome. Meanwhile, all the way on the other side of the country, Georgia and Oklahoma will go head-to-head in the Rose Bowl. Kickoff is set for 5 p.m. Eastern on January 1st. Both teams have just 1 loss on the season and are coming off their conference championship wins. Georgia, of course, overwhelmed Auburn last night 28-7, winning its first SEC championship since 2005. If you recall, the Bulldogs' one and only loss this season came from the Tigers not long ago. But second-year head coach Kirby Smart had a plan, and it more than paid off.
We stressed 2 words the entire week. We tried to keep it really simple: composure and physicality. And it was a physical, tough game. Nothing worth having comes easy in this game, and these guys certainly earned this honor and this distinction of being SEC champs.
And this unbelievable experience, and I mean, this is why, you know, the guys we came back for. And I remember just talking to the senior class, it's a little private meeting, and we just kind of talked about what we want to do. And it all paid off, and this moment right here is what we worked for.
Switching over to the NFL, the Tennessee Titans were able to pull out the win over AFC South rival Houston Texans this afternoon. Just like many of their wins this season, it took a little while for the Titans to get started, but they would eventually follow through in the end. Texans took a 10-0 lead at the start of the second, but that's when Tennessee rallies back, scoring 17 straight points, starting with this 9-yard score by Marcus Mariota. Then late in the third, Mariota hits tight end Delaney Walker middle of the field for another Titans touchdown. Tennessee would go up 17-10, and a Derrick Henry score late in the game would seal the deal. Titans win it 24-13 over the Texans. They now improve to 8-4 overall and remain tied for first place in the AFC South. Next up, they'll face the Arizona Cardinals on the road 1 week from today. Down in Atlanta today, the Falcons struggled big time against the first-place Minnesota Vikings. For the first time since 2015, Atlanta didn't score a single touchdown, also ending Matt Ryan's streak of 30 straight games with a touchdown pass. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings continued to stay red hot. Quarterback Casey Keenum was 25 of 30 for over 200 yards and 2 scores. Minnesota would go on to win it 14-9 over the Falcons, who now fall to 7-5 overall. Atlanta will now have a short turnaround before hosting a must-win Thursday night game against their bitter division rival New Orleans Saints. And over on the hardwood this afternoon, both the Vols and Lady Vols basketball teams are in action. The Lady Vols held nothing back against Alabama State, winning 104-51. They now extend their win streak to a perfect 8-0. And then not too long ago, the men tipped off against Georgia Tech. There you go, Nick. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We'll see about that one. The men
They're
are
doing
looking
pretty well this year.
Georgia Tech or the Vols? Because the men's team's looking really good too. Yeah,
they both are. It's going to be a good game.
We'll have to see
there you
about
go.
it.
Saints Falcons. That's going to be a tough one for the Falcons, isn't it?
Yes, it will. And it's such a quick turnaround too.
Yeah.
Thursday, so we'll see.
We have a big game tonight.
Oh, yeah.
But let's do the weather first. I think we better do that before we run out of time talking about football.
There you go.
But a quick look at this evening. It's going to be nice. We have some high clouds out there, and temperatures will be cooling off from the 40s over the next few hours. So cool enough just for a jacket or a light coat out there. We'll get down to about 43 late tonight. Clouds will probably thin out overnight. Could lead to a little bit of fog early in the morning. Breezy and warm tomorrow, and then rainy Tuesday and cold later in the week.
All right, good to know. All right, one Arizona city kicked off the holiday season by lighting an unusual tree. Yeah, that's pretty unusual. The festivities in Chandler kicked off yesterday with a nighttime parade featuring lights, and then it was time for the tumbleweed tree lighting. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. 12,000 people were there, and it's a unique holiday tradition dating back to 1957.
Very cool.
So some people light a Christmas tree, others light a tumbleweed. We'll see you after the game. After the game, CVS to buy insurance giant Aetna. What that means for you.
Another beautiful day tomorrow and then some rain on Tuesday. I'll have your 7-day forecast.